Hey,
Hello.
hey, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good also.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, I've been
We
doing a lot of walking lately outside.
mm,
It's fun. It's nice. Like I was writing my Halo hip hop, like more of it today. And it's fun to just kind of like walk around outside and write it like in my head and then like jot it down on like a notes app on my phone, like jot down different
nice.
verses as I think. It's kind of a fun. It's like a very lightweight process, just sort of thinking like as you just sort of think about the game, think about what's fun, listen to like a beat or something like that. And then when you think of like a turn of phrase that's good, write that down. And then once you have enough of those, you can just kind of mix and match them and then increase the density, like replace anything that's generic language with like something specific from the game. And then hopefully the result is a lot of references and turn of phrases that comment on the game and talk to the plot. And I think I have like a draft, yeah, like enough of a draft ready to sort of piece together and try to just kind of polish it.
Sweet. Yeah, that does sound like a fun process. Are you
Yeah.
gonna make a YouTube video out of it with like little
Yeah.
gameplay along with the
Yeah, because
well,
I before I left, I screen recorded like an entire playthrough of the first Halo game, so I have all that footage. That refreshed my memory about like what happens in the game too.
yeah.
Uh, and yeah, yeah, that was a fun. It's fun to play through. Like I feel like that campaign is just pretty good. It's like a good length. I don't know how long it took me total, maybe a couple like hours across multiple sessions to like play through it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that does sound nice. Yeah. Maybe yeah, I wanna I don't know, like try to like play a bunch of smaller games. Uh that like yeah, are kind of like classics. Like I yeah, including yeah, ones I haven't played or have played just to like, yeah, I don't know, refresh and understand more of like, I don't know, games media and stuff. Maybe Halo 1's sort of on that, in that list as well. Things to try.
yeah, it was funny after I read that like Tim Rogers best game of all time, like Another World.
Yeah.
I bought it for like $2 and then I sat down and started playing it one night and like in his review he mentions like the one of the first things you do is like jump over these little slugs and it's like and in his review he's saying like and then you realize like the slug will bite you so you have to jump over them and then I got like I tried like the jumping in the game is very like not really telegraphed well and it's not very responsive. So when you hit the space bar, your character kind of like skips forward, not very high off the ground. So it's kind of ambiguous. Like, how do you time that to jump over not one slug, but like three different slugs that are not spaced correctly? So you actually have to like lurch forward, jump, land, take a step backwards, then jump again to like start the, and it's sort of, it feels like clunky. So I get killed, and then but then you basically go back to like the beginning of the. It doesn't just go to that scene. You go back to like the beginning,
Oh,
which is like one scene earlier. You know, like you just sort of come out of the water, but it's sort of like okay, so it's not like super snappy when you restart, and you do have to repeat sections. And the other thing I noticed at the time was he talks about like when you come out of the water, you go left and you see a vine. But the thing is, if you run off that cliff and swing on the vine, it's a one time use thing. And then if you go left and you jump over all the slugs and you get chased by the monster, the vine is already used. So you just die. So you have to then realize you can't use that vine even though you could if you wanted to. It's a one time use thing. So you have to leave that vine alone until you do the other scenes, which it gets used later. And I'm sure that if you die at any point in those scenes, you come back to the start of the game and it's sort of like okay so there's a lot of repetition here, the movement is kind of clanky, it's asking you to sort of perform these like quite long sequences that like I'm sure if you had a walkthrough and you knew exactly what you need to do that would be still pretty hard, but sort of figuring your way through it like in order to test what is going to be the next successful thing you have to play through like all the way up to a certain point and then you can try one more option at a certain scene. So it's like sort of like this like maybe I guess the artfulness of the game is that like all of this is kind of logically telegraphed to you if you really pay attention to the details. I'm sure you can sort
Mm.
of feel the story and get your way through it. So maybe that's like, but then it just sort of came down to like, okay, I guess part of it is it wasn't like a mystery to me. Like I knew exactly you have to jump the slugs, and I sort of knew about that vine. Like it was not like this is a new world for me. I already knew like what do I have to do in this world, but it's literally like just do the mechanical like thing of jumping over these things, and it's like really it's not easy. And so it's like, well, do I want to play however long this game is with some scenes that I don't even know? Like I heard about
Yeah.
he said gun battles and stuff, and it's like if you lose a gun battle, there's a lot you got to do again. I don't know where the checkpoints are, but
Yeah.
like that would be like if I didn't know about holding the shield, timing the bullets, shooting when it's right, ducking, jumping, like it's like no way am I like I'm sure with like Tim Rogers, he says he has a perfect like he's a savant with a perfect sense of timing, such that he can turn a TV off when the commercials start and turn it back on without fail, and he remembers everything and records it. So like, yeah, playing like a painstaking game that's based on timing, like precise timing across multiple scenes and looking at details, that does seem like a kind of game he would like. But then for me, it's like, can I jump over these slugs reliably? And does it get annoying like the fifth time I like fail? And it's sort of like there's no way I'm gonna come out of this game like being like, well, that was fun and exciting. It's gonna be like, damn,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like this grueling like gauntlet of tasks.
That's tough. Yeah, I feel like lack of checkpointing plus like frustrating deaths is like I don't know, a tough combination. I guess it's like yeah, I don't know. I think about like Dark Souls and all the Souls games and stuff, and it's like at least for that there's like some amount of checkpointing, and it's like once you sort of get it, it's like there's a reward. It's kind of rewarding, and there's like a bit of meta progression that like always kind of helps you out, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like even the games that are like I don't know talked about as really frustrating. It's like there's a lot of like ways that you can sort of I don't know skirt around it, but yeah, I'm less enticed now than before based on yeah that description.
I guess it's fun. I guess I just feel it's from the era of like this game because of the memory limits, I'm sure on whatever console cannot be very long, so it needs to have a certain play time, and it's going to like sort of
Mm,
challenge players that have one game available for like 8 hours a day as a kid or something, and they'll just get through it no matter what. And if it was easy, they would just like get through it really fast and it wouldn't really have anything to it. So it has to have like a almost like an arcade fail level of challenge.
yeah, yeah, I can see it being like the coolest game I'd ever seen if it was like I don't know the first thing that wasn't like yeah if I hadn't played like Inside before or something you know um, yeah
Yeah. It is cool from like in that review as well, he talks about whoever made it making like an efficient animation system. I wonder what the details of that are, because that's something
oh
that is
interesting
yeah, just like I guess I don't know, the opening cutscene has fairly good like artistic fidelity, and then the game itself you can see that like it's almost like SVGs like moving around, animated around, which are quite like well done. It just feels like a very like makeable game in that sense. Like
mm,
if you sat down and you designed an animation system, it feels like this does make sense that it's the result, and it feels kind of cool in that way. It feels like this is like one person that used technology to like efficiently make something that looks pretty good and has like an aesthetic, and also was do like they sort of used their time well. It feels like that they made a system that like made a game, and a lot of cool games come out of that. Whenever someone makes like a nice engine or system that supports the game, or like just that one sort of game, then uses it to make a game, it's always a pretty cool result.
yeah yeah I agree like I both sort of respect on just like a I don't know, on a rigor level, like the people that do like custom or homemade engines and or do like a lot of custom things in games, and it also is like often really interesting. Uh, yeah, and like sort of, I feel like it guarantees a level of maybe not, yeah, almost guarantees a level of like difference to other games. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I I one thing I struggle with, like, there's just certain things like in the Godot animation player. I just like for whatever reason like don't I like don't like the UI of it or something. Um,
Right.
so I for animation I just like use tweens for everything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It can get like really like wonky and specific where it's like this really long stretch of uh code. It's like it'll be like 100 lines of like chained tweens that are like this whole tree that's like not super easily visualizable, but it's just like in the code. And then it's just like a face sort of moving like a little bit, like doing a reaction. Um, I'm like, I don't know, yeah, if this is the most efficient system, but
Right.
uh, yeah, that's what I use for now, at least.
Yeah, I feel I'm bad at anytime there's like a software kind of has like an opinion about architecture, I'm bad at like following it. But then I don't know, I guess yeah, I have like a bad I'll just sort of do what works and then it gets bigger and bigger until it gets like unwieldy and I don't really adopt any like design patterns that work well with like the environment that I'm in. And that creates like a limit to the complexity that I can deal with. Because
Mm,
in my head though, I sort of know that like Godot is obviously like a node based system. So then if you, it feels like the correct thing would be like if we have a node that needs to be like animated in some way or selection of nodes, we should like write our own custom node, like just like make a generic node and then attach the tween script to it and then expose like
right.
export or whatever, expose like the key variables. And then whenever any sort of node tree needs animation, you just like drop on that custom tween animation node, which is just like a pure node with the tween written all in code. And then just
Yeah.
like tween the variables. But then even on top of that, it's like for more complicated animations, I feel like we should like go into Figma and have like if we're animating something 2D, create like the thing we want to animate and then just like drag and manipulate the the layers in Figma to create like keyframes and then have like a program that reads the various like keyframe things from Figma and bundles that as like tween animation code or something that can just be like dropped onto a node that could be like I don't know picked up and wired in our game and then we have like a pipeline for just sort of like you know click and drag around in Figma to like position the keyframes,
Mm,
export export. And I feel that starts to become like a system that I would envision something like Another World probably had, where there's some like ergonomic way to describe the animation, then like a translation that takes the output of like the ergonomic step and makes it just like code, and then a standard design pattern where like blobs of animation values get correctly interpreted by some kind of like runtime code.
mm.
But
Yeah,
then yeah,
totally.
it's very hard to yeah, that's a hard thing to because I feel anytime I build like if you build a system like that, it has constraints where like it'll be good at animating in the way that we like foresaw we wanted to animate, but then immediately as soon as we see those constraints, we'll think of like another out of the box thing we want to do that doesn't work with the pipeline that's like custom anyway, and then it just becomes custom code again. Uh, it was kind of
Yeah.
funny one time. The one time that this worked pretty well was like one of the min max games I made. I I decided on like a couple like I would script all my like cutscenes or like anytime the player was kind of not in control, I would have like just sort of a JSON object or like an array that step by step would almost give like the camera, it would instruct the camera like switch players or do certain like motions or something like that, or like zoom in or something like that. And but then I had only like five or six, like I sort of had like five or six like commands I could give to the camera, and then every cutscene had to sort of just be like some of it was like a command like this character says this thing, and then it would show the dialogue box or whatever. And so it just immediately became like every cutscene or thing that happened had to be described with like the pre-decided like camera movements or dialogue boxes that I had the ability to like issue. And as long as I stayed within those bounds, the entire game was just like, camera and dialogue directions to different characters. And that was kind of nice. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of like that, then if I start adding stuff, it becomes unwieldy and there's like exceptions and things. So then that it obviously doesn't like scale forever unless I maintained it and stuff. But it was a
Yeah.
nice, yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like it's like a weird but probably effective way to scope where to like build a custom system where you're like, okay, I can only use these building blocks. Then yeah,
yeah,
if you're like actually disciplined about it, then it's like a self-fulfilling like scoping thing. You're like, well, I can't make something more complex than
yeah.
this. So yeah.
That's a fun like guess to try to make at the start though. Trying to like
Uh-huh.
look at like an arbitrary thing that you want to do and then pick like five or six like basic rules that are able to describe the thing, and then you just program like those five or six rules, and then if that allows you to like by recombining those rules you can sort of do everything you need to do. It's fun when that works out, then it's sort of like you build a system and it works, but then it sucks if, I guess that's where like the project, I would like abort a project if I sort of can't uh yeah, it just becomes messier if it doesn't work out perfectly, but it's fun when it does because then it feels
Yeah.
like so effortless.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like an interesting way of going about projects, especially like smaller scale projects. Is like, yeah, coming up with that list at the beginning of just like key systems you want to build. Yeah, started
Yeah,
doing this
oh
game
yeah,
jam for we'll see. Hopefully I can finish, but um, yeah, it's like a for a bullet hell game jam, but yeah, I don't
mm,
know. I'm sort of doing like a different thing. Like I'm doing mine in 3D, and my guess is I'm going to be one of the only 3D ones. And yeah, so far it like is not like playable, but yeah, I don't know. I'm like, uh,
it's just
I'm
like
excited to see
like
if
a
it
two
works
a
out.
2D bullet hell, but your character's in like 3D, so they can just like stand up and avoid all the bullets like by doing the third accent.
That's good satire. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've kind of like I'm aware of bullet hells, but I don't even know how to begin how they begin their design with the crazy patterns that are made by the bullets, but the fact that there's always like a space that you can be in to survive, how to sort of begin to calculate those patterns and how they interact such that it's like possible to win but barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I was thinking about just like, yeah, to do because that it seems like a lot of like for the past projects of the game jam, it's a lot of that like two dimension, like sort of pretty um like patterns and like a lot of the sauce is just like in the art design and but like all pretty similar. But yeah, I don't know. I just went completely like different, and yeah, I'm just like doing a 3D thing with um like you're kind of like flying around in a like a simple cityscape, and you're trying to like escape, like sort of like cameras watching you. Um, so I don't know. I don't even know if it's like actually a bullet hell at that point. If it's just something different, but more like a
Yeah, I
stealth
find it's
game, I
hard.
guess.
There's a lot of I was in like a Metroidvania jam one time, and like the game I made was like not technically a Metroidvania, but I don't really understand some genres like what people have like because it's sort of informed by like all these games that people that like the genre have played, and there's no
Hmm.
like definition other than just like it needs to have enough of the elements of these other games to sort of count. And there's not when you try to do like a minimalistic interpretation, it like technically fits, but it doesn't meet like the expectations of people, and they don't really understand that they have like expectations, or they don't have a
Mm.
definition themselves. They just kind of like if it's not if it doesn't have like some of the elements they're used to or something, they don't uh but yeah, it's kind of confusing in that way.
Yeah, yeah, the theme-based ones. But yeah, hopefully, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just hoping to keep doing game jams just to like get back in the swing of creating quick projects and stuff. And yeah, if people like sort of if the feedback is like this isn't a bullet hell game, then like that's fine, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
There was an
I,
interesting game dev thing that uh like me and my friends did a game night last night, and one of my friends that's like not a programmer, he's been using like Claude to try to make a game. And
oh
the
yeah.
thing he sort of like he described like apparently there's an article somewhere that like, the author of the article talks about like just how you sort of start asking the AI questions. It gives you like an early and fast, like good demo, but then you start asking it for like a little bit more, and then it kind of goes off the rails a bit, and you try to get it back, and all of a sudden it's like 2 a.m. and you're just like waiting for the delay, to ask it another question, and it's like almost there, but not really, and it's getting like worse and more messy.
Uh-huh.
And my friend said that's like exactly. He said basically that's exactly the experience he had. Like it became like 2 a.m. and he's like, it gave him like some good stuff, but then it got messy and he was trying to sort of like add, more requirements, but keep it sane. And it was getting like more and more broken. But he showed it to us. I guess the way it went was he ran like an ngrok command, which allows you to like create a server on your local computer. And then ngrok is like a company that they maintain a server, I guess. And they sort of do the hole punching thing where you then visit like this ngrok dot whatever URL, and then it goes to like a server on my friend's computer,
Mm.
so that he can just sort of like start the game, and then everyone can visit this URL. And like the parts that worked were that you sort of hit this like enter your name, you pick a character, and then you're in like a tile map kind of world where you can see like my other friends that were playing, like we're all walking around, and there's some like enemies on the tile map that you can like shoot like sort of spells at, where just like sort of like you wave your wand and it creates an image. It's like a top down art style. But like for example, like a bunch of the trees, it was like a tree but then a rectangular like white background. Like I don't know where the art came from, maybe Claude like got that too, but it wasn't like a transparent PNG. It was like these rectangular PNGs with like not a transparent background. So that was interesting. And then there was sort of just like various like bugs, and there was like the typical like multiplayer lag. And then eventually I guess there was a bandwidth issue where ngrok is like piping all the traffic through, and it's a free service, so it hits like a bandwidth limit at some point.
Mm.
Uh, but that was kind of because then after that we've sort of been talking about like the fundamentals of like if you want even like a simple multiplayer game, what are the ways to like achieve that kind of
Mm.
because you're like paying for a server, or you're paying for something, or you're hosting it yourself, but then you have to expose your machine to the internet somehow, at least while it's
Yeah.
running. And there's the best thing I've ever seen is this like Peer.js library where Peer.js, like the makers of the library, they maintain like a free server that just does the initial handshake for two machines to establish like peer to peer. And it feels pretty magical when you use it, where uh, like if you just host your code on a website, when you visit the website, Peer.js will generate like a code and give that to you. And then if you just get that code to your friend somehow, or you could even like append the code to the URL and send your friend a URL with the code appended as like a get parameter, then when your friend clicks the URL, it'll just like open the website. The website will then, instead of generating a new code, it grabs the code from the URL and then contacts like the server to create the initial handshake. And then you have a peer-to-peer connection like between the two machines. And that works for like sending messages back and forth. Uh, and
That's
like
really
because
cool.
there's yeah, so I've always been curious about like why doesn't that just sort of work more, and why haven't people written like many more even easier to use like wrappers for that? Like why isn't it just like a checkbox, like when you if you put code on GitHub and host it as like a static site, why can't you just hit a checkbox that's like, by the way, like either generate a code or grab a code and just use that to connect two machines and just give me like just from my perspective, it should just be like a function that I call that like sends my player data, and then I would have another callback function that like receives messages from other people, and just don't even just have that work. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and like that would be pretty easy wrapper to write. I guess it's just Peer.js is like super generic. It's just for sending messages. And if you wanted like the URL thing, that's kind of a more specific case. But it's surprising that it's you don't really find like these pre-made wrappers or anything. I'm always like fiddling with it, and then it mostly works. But as soon as you have more than like 2 3 people, uh that's where it's interesting, where like if everybody's computer is sending messages peer to peer to everyone else, it's a lot of traffic, and so it gets slow very fast. So then what you want to do is like establish one peer as like the host, and everyone communicates with them, and like they're the source of truth. And then there's like a trust issue, like that person could manipulate the data, but assuming they don't, that works. But then you have to decide like who is the host. And then if the host leaves, like the game ends. So one time I tried to write like a protocol that it would be like a group of peers that kind of they all know each other exists off the start, but they automatically decide a host. And if they can't
Mm.
reach the host, they all make the same decision to like choose the new host. And there's actually like a really complicated protocol for that
Yeah,
like
I have to learn that at some point.
yeah,
I
Raft.
forget what it's called. Yeah, Raft. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to write Raft in college. That was
Yeah,
like
it's
a
weird.
project. Yeah.
What bothers me about those protocols is that they're not they can never be perfect, because it relies on like the ping time of like Wi-Fi, and this you have to define like how long do you wait before someone is unreachable, or like you have to make this assumption that, well, I guess Raft handles that in different ways and probably makes like some kind of optimal assumptions, but it's like if the Wi-Fi is just bad or whatever, or someone like joins and quits a bunch, it's always going to introduce, like at some point the programmer is responsible for like deciding what is true and false or something. And
Hmm.
it feels like there's with separate machines, yeah, it's always like the fundamentally, it's just like way more complex than it would be pleasing if it was like if there was like, I don't know, like a 3 rule protocol that's like very simple and just sort of was reliable and worked. But it's just, I guess it's not possible because of, I think Raft even has like that whole rollback concept. Like if things go wrong, it like can roll back to some like more correct state, and there's like voting and everything.
Hmm.
Uh, and isn't it probably is also like trying to be a bit like trust, like so if a bad actor gets in, it minimizes like the effects. And
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
remember if it had anything about like bad actors in it. Yeah, it's all sort of distant memories for me. I had like this was like one of like my fields of focus for a while with my job was like doing uh,
Yeah.
different versions of this for servers. Like there was this one thing um, back when like HashiCorp Corp. Um, I don't know. They did like all these different like networking tools,
Yeah.
including this one called Console. That's like a sort of a take on this. Yeah, and I had to like implement that at the company I was at. But it was yeah, it was of limited utility. I felt it was like I don't know. Uh, like I guess this works, but it's like compared to just like the simple like whatever brute force solution was in place at the time, it was like not better. Like, um, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like multiplayer for games is such like an interesting like on a very meta level. I felt for like at some point I would have guessed that it would have gotten a lot easier to make multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Um, and just maybe that's just like broader faith in the internet and quality of software getting better. And
Yeah.
now I don't know if maybe I that faith has been shattered, and I'm not sure if that's like the current direction. Like, uh, yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I feel like more agnostic towards like
Yeah.
whether it'll be easier to make multiplayer
Yeah.
games or yeah.
Yeah, I came up with a theory to like just an idea today that like you would think that in 2026 it would be easier to walk outside an apartment and go meet a friend in like a free, you know, area, in a free nice area like a park or something. Because that's, it's like that's all people fundamentally need to do is like exist, in their place of where they live, and they know other people near them, like they have friends near them, and sometimes they leave where they live and they need to just peacefully go to a third space, like a park, let's call it, and like talk with each other. But in 2026, it's like so hard. Like, one, nobody knows anybody. Two, there's no free places to go. You have to go to like a third party, like paid business where you'll pay like $60, and probably both people will drive there because they live really far apart, or there's no walking paths like to the place. And I was thinking along those lines because like the internet, like I sort of, the assumption we make is like the internet is all like software and flexible, but I guess it's true that it's like a bunch of wires and boxes and hardware. And so the urban planning of the physical internet that exists and the standards are sort of like prioritizing like a certain use case. And just as like a company will sell you a car and a company will sell you like a third place to sort of exist in, and both you and your friend like can get, can sort of like, if you get into a car and you drive and you go to this paid third location, then that's just like sort of like playing a AAA game. Like, like you go to Steam, you buy the AAA game with money, and you can meet up inside the game, and like that's a good experience. But in both cases, if you just try to interface with like reality outside directly, or the internet, the internet with no assumptions, like that's in my mind, like if I have a computer, that computer is on the internet, and if I go on the internet, then for free, I should be able to walk, or like quote unquote walk from my computer to a friend's computer, and we should be able to just like meet up on the internet without, buying Discord Nitro or like going into Facebook. It should just be like the internet itself is a free place where two people can meet up, just as it should be true in the real world. But in both cases, we sort of see like the urban planning decisions that have been made are like they're working fine for like corporations, uh, and then they just don't. There's like the public good or the public things are not robust at all and not well planned out, and kind of in theory, like that's what it is. It's like in theory you can do that, so I guess that's good enough, but in practice it just is so broken that you end up just kind of paying some fee to someone. out of like necessity.
Yeah, yeah, hard to agree. Like I think, yeah, maybe it's just like, well, it makes sense that the internet is, increasingly becoming less free in different places, and including the U.S. and uh, like it's not immune to the sort of, I don't know, yeah, corporate centralization and takeover of public utilities that like has been in public services. That's like, I don't know, the dominant like political uh, movements of the past 50 years. Like I feel like maybe there's like there's a bastion of like uh, resistance around like open source software and free internet that has held out longer than it would have otherwise. Like I feel
Like the
like
open source. Yeah, the ones that exist. Like there's a decent
yeah,
number of yeah, there is like a decent number of free software that I open source that use and don't pay for. Yeah, that's
yeah. It's
pretty
just
nice.
like there's some cultural thing among like I feel like a lot of developers or maybe most that's like I don't know, pro open source, you know.
And
Um yeah.
on that open source note, I heard this interesting thing that I forget what it's called, but it's like if proprietary technology exists, like proprietary code, then there was a strategy for a while, which was like legal, where you would have one team in one room reverse engineer like a whole software design, and then they would write up like an API that if software uh, worked with the API they created, it would like interface properly with the proprietary tech. And then they would just hand only the API to another team. And that like the clean team that had never done any reverse engineering would just make software that worked with the API. And then the company could release like a product that interfaces or kind of replicates the proprietary tech. And it wouldn't be considered any sort of because like all one team did was produce like an API from reverse engineering, and the other one's just writing software for an API. And because no one exists like in both, and that was like a legal. But then the problem was nowadays, I heard this was like 404 Media reported that uh, they have that same system running, but with AI, where one AI will read an open source project, create an API, and then quote unquote like another AI will
Mm,
make software for the API. And then so now you have like this open source cloning procedure that can just happen as
mm,
fast as AI can do that. And then and then it's license free. It's sort of a gray, it's like not, obviously, I think this should obviously be like the law should be updated, but it means you can like whitewash open source and then put whatever license, do whatever you want on it. And then you now have like a clean fork of any open source like within the hour. And that seems like that seems kind of problematic.
yeah. Yeah. Dang. AI at it again. Yeah. That's really interesting though. Yeah. That's really interesting. I didn't know the first thing or the second thing. I feel like both are like a lot to chew on.
Yeah, 404 Media, their podcast. I listen to the 404 Media podcast. They just sort of talk about the articles they wrote on their podcast, but they're doing like good journalism. And I don't know how like big what I just explained is, but at
Yeah.
least someone, it was like some kind of security professional had made this tool that does that as like a demonstration of uh, that it could be possible, kind of.
I'm gonna sign up to their newsletter again just for that. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I sign up just to get their like extended ad-free podcast.
Oh, nice. That's
That's
cool.
the reason that I pay for a lot of the newer like independent journalism is just to get the ad-free podcast. And
Hmm.
then theoretically there's articles like somewhere that I probably could read, but I never get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's harder. Yeah, I feel like articles, it's just like they really stack up, and like I've gotten better at reading books, but I somehow it's like, yeah, to just sit and read an article for 15, 20 minutes. Maybe because it's like on a screen already. Like if there was a easy way to just like have like a e-reader or something where it's like export all the articles that I saved to the e-reader and then like this is just my. Um,
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole like curation, like there's a bunch of different kind of media types all over the internet, and it would be great to just be able to easily curate and organize them into like kind of like an RSS, like a super generalized RSS feed that we can easily manage and like reorder and swap from in like just
Hmm.
one place that all devices could access. There's a lot of stuff that should just be like part of like the internet, like using a computer with the internet should almost just fundamentally be like the the downloading and organizing of like RSS feeds for consumption is
Yeah,
almost like yeah.
yeah. Speaking of, yeah, I assume I don't know. RSS is all open source. Everything. It's like that's like a I don't know. It's like cool that that still supported most places. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh yeah, when I was thinking I might spend a few minutes just talking through the protocol that I once thought of that I don't know what the fault is with it. It's sort of like yeah, I was sort of like trying to do like a I don't know actually what all the things that Raft does, but I was just trying to create a protocol that would it would allow like a group of people to connect in a multiplayer experience and
Mm,
all of them independently because I guess this is one thing Raft does is you choose it helps you like choose a host. So my thing was designed to like a group of people get connected, they choose a host, and if the host leaves, then then everyone else in the group is able to stay connected and choose a new host that is still like available. And there's like that resiliency. Uh,
hmm.
and I thought it was fairly like I actually don't know where this goes wrong. I ended up like writing it and it was kind of like flaky and I could never it's very hard to like debug this kind of stuff. But essentially like I was using like Peer.js, and so if you load up a website with Peer.js, it gives you like a basically a token, and so everyone that visits this website would get like a token, and that token, if you give that to someone, they can use that to like look up your connection info with the peer like the centrally known like Peer.js like server, and so that was like step one is like everyone joins and they all get given a token and then basically like any individual can send their token to someone else using some kind of means, and then from that point those two people are connected. And whenever you're connected with like another person, you basically just like sort all the tokens you know of, like yours and everyone else's. You sort them because they're all like alphanumeric tokens. So you sort them, and whichever token is at the top of the list, that's the host. And so if so the network can start forming and like anyone can send their token to anyone, and once that person sort of connects, they're told like everyone always tells everyone that they're connected to. So like every new person that joins immediately gets told of every known person in the group, and therefore they have all the tokens available to them and can sort them and decide the host. And then from that point they contact only the host. Uh, and so that allows like the group to form. Everyone that connects to any node in the group is told, sort of who the host is by virtue of knowing all the tokens. And then the host is then responsible for like all communication and keeping everyone informed about all the members in the group. Uh, and basically, if the host becomes unreachable, then everyone else will realize, like after some amount of time, they'll realize they can't reach the host. So then they'll perform like they'll eliminate the host token. They'll perform a new sort. They'll all decide like if it's just the host that left, they'll all decide on the same new host by sorting, and then start pinging like that person. And it would just go down the list. If people are like gone, then eventually you'd find the topmost like sorting token that is reachable, and everyone would establish. Uh, and I sort of felt like I think as I worked through it, I had to add some extra stuff about like if certain edge cases happen, but I couldn't really see why. Like assuming that everyone's a good actor and you're getting like making the assumption you're getting a token, the tokens are sortable. It was hard for me to figure out where was the gap, if anything. Like maybe the time, like it could be like a timing issue, kind of. If like let's say someone's internet drops out, you choose a new host,
Hmm.
they come back. Now there's now suddenly it's like they're rejoining, but they're not really rejoining. They're just like active again. And I don't know if people would realize that, or uh, I guess if they got booted, they would have to like rejoin. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to jog my memory, but I feel like what you're describing is like basically Raft without like s- some like
Yeah,
weird
there's like a
edge
ledger,
cases
right?
handled. What's
Sorry,
that?
what? Or what did you say?
Just
Oh,
that
separately.
like yeah,
Okay.
like I think it's Raft, but then like Raft has these like it's there's all these like little like timers going in Raft for all the nodes where it's like oh like every node needs to like ping the host in a certain amount of time and have all these timeouts just to ensure these like little edge cases where like a host joins, drops out, another host, like that type of
Yeah.
thing. And it just somehow it's like this, yeah, consensus algorithm that's like sort of guaranteed to work to a point, I think. Like, I forget what the fail case is, but maybe it's like something like if over half of the nodes um, drop, like, go offline randomly, then I think at that point maybe it's like no longer guaranteed to work. Um, but yeah, I I feel like it's what you're describing is basically that, but I don't know like I can't think of like
Yeah.
the mechanism by which it fails, I guess.
Yeah, I wish that I don't think I ever did any like decentralized compute, like formal decentralized computing. I assume it would cover this kind of stuff. Because yeah, I
Hmm.
would like to sort of I don't even have like the notation of like how do I, like I want to sort of on paper, I want to write out like whatever my like write out all my timing assumptions, say like a node counts as dropped out if you haven't heard from it in like this amount of time, and then as soon
Yeah.
as I have those times decided, I could invent like a scenario where it's like if the host drops out at this time and then comes back now, and then like this message doesn't make it until after this other one, you could like invent like a scenario that destroys the network. But I just sort of uh yeah, I don't have that. I don't have like the notation or sort of the knowledge of like what are the guarantees of TCP versus like for example, or even could UDP be used for I don't yeah, even to the point of like I know about TCP and UDP, but I've never actually been able to like programmatically send a UDP message. Like everything that I've ever used is always wrapped in like TCP, and then
Hmm.
uh therefore it takes longer or something. And uh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I worked. Yeah, one of my first internships, maybe I've mentioned this, was at this company that did like custom UDP networking for like making their pitch was to make like websites load faster.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I was just there for a summer, so I didn't do like too much, but uh, I think eventually they got bought by Roblox. So it's like an interesting like yeah, I guess that was sort of useful for like this very like particular multiplayer you know context for being really really fast is important. Yeah, and I remember it was like man, this stuff was like a lot more complicated than I would have guessed. Like I think everything was like written in like C++ and yeah, because it was just so like down to the millisecond. But then the guy that founded it, his background was in like the Linux kernel. So he was kind of like, I don't know. I guess the attention to detail is even, to a more absurd degree when it's like at the kernel level. Like every little thing can have
Yeah.
such an outsized effect, and the gains that they could get from um, optimization are like microsecond level, and so then moving up to networking, which is like millisecond level, is like um, like I don't know, he found it easier, I guess. um, but yeah, I don't know, these are all very distant memories for me, and I'm kind of like, yeah, it's reawakening some interest I used to have in distributed systems. But I
Yeah.
could send like there's like some. I feel like I have some class notes, or maybe even like, because one thing that was fun was they gave us in whatever class I took, um, like all the test cases, um, where it was like there's no way I could write all this on my own, like um, where it would really probe at whatever system you built to see if it worked, and against all manner of failure scenarios. Um, yeah, I don't know. I can look and see.
Yeah. Some of it is like you could have like a unit test or a simulation of your code on one machine and to work out all the timings. Uh, but yeah, it's like it's a different. It's hard to get like maybe those tests kind of do simulate that, but then yeah, once
Mhm.
you put it in the real world, it's like uh, things are like so much like jankier or messier or something.
Right,
And
right.
then it's
Yeah, it's
hard to,
like
yeah, it's hard to
no
without
amount
like
of
yeah, just like getting friends together and playing it. It's hard to. It's annoying that it's not like testable in isolation or something.
right, right. Yeah, the the unit tests or whatever integration tests, like I feel like can never hold a candle to actually trying to do a multiplayer game with friends, like on different Wi-Fi.
I
Yeah.
feel like this is a space that is like very rich though, where like if it became known that like a talented programmer had made like a very easy to use library that just made like free peer-to-peer networking and like we started seeing games that were based on it and then also along with that there was like a method for sending a message and a method for sending like a UDP message that was like very fast and it was just like a small JavaScript library. If that could
Hmm.
exist, I feel like that would really create just like every software could just embed this library and suddenly be like a multiplayer experience and like indie games could just use it and everyone could just start like on itch.io you could just like pull a game down and it could be like a massive multiplayer game. uh
Yeah, that would be awesome.
yeah, and it's confusing. It just feels like the obvious thing that people would want, but no, everyone that's working on that stuff, there's like some caveat or something that just makes it not, uh, it's not properly abstracted or small enough or in JavaScript. There's like never, yeah, that golden thing that comes through.
Yeah, yeah, even yeah. I think like for Godot, like I think there's some. I'm not sure, but like I think they're
For
like the
multi,
Godot
yeah.
Foundation for like with multiplayer, like that's kind of a thing where they like if you wanted, I'm
But
sure they have open source stuff, but they also have like paid versions. It's
but
like
you like run, like one way is to run like a headless Godot instance, right, on a server or something.
hmm, yeah, that
Like
makes
they have
sense.
that. Yeah, I've seen
I
at
haven't
least one
tried
of
it.
their options is like like there's a certain like node in the that you can put in a tree where everything under that node will be like synced across clients. And but the
Oh,
way it
cool.
does the syncing is like I think all the clients have to connect to like a server that has like a bunch of Godot code on it, like essentially like a server edition of Godot that's running on the server that like once you have that, all the clients can figure it out. But getting to that point is like basically means paying for like a server that could allow you to host that. Or I suppose you can like Godot probably can run that thing on a local machine, but then it and the question is how do you expose the game on your machine to the internet, or like I guess it would work on
Yeah.
the local network. And yeah, so then it's the same kind of like you need to punch a hole somehow, and I don't know if they have a solution for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at that point, it's like more, I don't know, like
Yeah.
indie experimental, like have it on a or host it somewhere locally.
It'd be cool though to create like a custom like plugin like peer or like pure.js node that if you just had that node in your game, it generates like a code for every client, connects to the pure.js server, and uh, like connecting to other people in the game would be as easy as just sending your code to them, and then they would plug it into their game that's running, and two clients would connect and then start sending messages like peer to peer.
That would be sweet. Yeah, that would be a really fun idea. I
Yeah.
remember, I think, I don't know, maybe it was like, gosh, I don't remember where I heard this, probably some video game podcast. They were talking about like, there was an experimental game where like someone hosted it on like a computer that was like running on solar power, or maybe like a Raspberry Pi running on solar power or something. And like the the gist of it was like people had to log in every day and like do some tasks to like repair the space station, or I forget what it
Uh,
was. And then if they didn't do it, then it would the the space station would explode, and then that would be the end of the game. And just like yeah, it lasted like a little while, and then someday no one logged in and did the task, and that was it. Like it's like oh, that's so cool, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy. Like people do that, and then you'd think like, well, here we go. Like now that it's been proof of concept shown, we're gonna have like
yeah.
hundreds of those everywhere, and then it's like a one-off thing, and it's like what are we missing? Was it expensive? Was it did it not? Did nobody see that happen and then be like, I'm gonna do that
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
too?
is it yeah just like a cultural thing of like people don't think to do stuff like that, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, good
Yeah, it's like
questions.
if nobody makes a YouTube video about it, then it like as soon as it's done, it's just like an urban legend. There needs to be
Uh,
like a video where you can watch this video, they get like rehyped on the idea that like then leads to another video that's like a tutorial how to set it up, and then you'd have all these like 12-year-olds like making it.
yeah, yeah. Once it gets to the yeah the Roblox game dev level, then it's yeah more viral. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go write like a super lightweight like proof like example of just the pure.js library, because one of my friends was asking about it, that like could you establish peer to peer for free, just host a website on GitHub, and I've done it before. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know why I always I should just make like the simplest example. I need to decide on like what is the simplest demonstration. If you visit like a website, if you visit a website, it should say like copy and send this URL, and then there should be like some little widget, like a little counter button or some kind of grid of things you can toggle on and off that just proves that two things are connected. I need to find the simplest example of that or something.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. That's a yeah fun project. Yeah, I just found I think this was probably I don't know. This was yeah 10 years ago, but some version of the class I took where you like implement Raft um, for one of the homework things. I think it has like the tests and things in it too. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I remember it being like super hard. So I don't know if it's worth the time.
Yeah, I think even just trying to sort of, I could sort of sense like when I started reading one time, like just what is the gist of Raft, it was clearly like something that just keeps getting more and more. It's like a fractal. Like there's these little
Yeah.
things that are sort of like, it's like this, it's like sort of starts describing something that's like way more complicated than I would expect. But then I'm sure there's a good reason, but also I don't know what the reason is. And like at some point, it's just sort of like trying to wrap my head around the whole thing is, I'm missing some kind of like mental model of what, like, why is it doing what it's doing or something. But then
Yeah.
it would, what I want is just, like the 10-minute YouTube video that makes me feel like I understand it. And that doesn't exist. And then it's sort of like, that would be cool if just that stuff was out there. Like someone just kind of explaining like Raft for programmers, but in a way that doesn't sort of assume like deep knowledge and
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, and like this distributed systems world is such like a very like I don't know, it's like a particular thing. Like yeah, I'm just looking at there's a website for a raft that has like a nice little visualization, but it's like it's like at some point I understood this, but currently I do not.
yeah, it's when I was looking at it, I wanted to find like a Raft implementation in JavaScript. And when I
Hmm.
didn't like immediately find that, I was like, that's where I feel like something's off. Like it's sort of like, well, obviously like I want a JavaScript library that is raft.js that I can just start
Right.
using, but it's like that doesn't exist, then is this such a heavyweight protocol that it like doesn't work in JavaScript, or it's lower, it needs to be lower level or have access, to some special, you need to like hand it, certain credentials that it uses to communicate, because the Raft.js would just be like the implementation. But then it's weird. Like I guess no one implements it fully. Maybe they all implement like a subset that's needed. So maybe it's not even meaningful to say Raft.js, because it would be like this. It's like, well, which parts of Raft do you need and not need? Because it's probably like 20 megabytes or something if you want the whole thing. But then, yeah,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I feel like it's not that bad, but
yeah.
in terms of
Yeah,
amount of
I sort of
code.
exaggerate because it's like it doesn't exist for some reason, and then I just sort of
Yeah.
imagine what I imagine are like the reasons it wouldn't, but then also it's like those reasons don't seem true, so then why where is it?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. I guess I'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah. It's past 5 o'clock. Yeah. Let me. Do I have a? Oh yeah. Okay. No. 2 weeks from now, I probably will be gone. But
Oh, yeah.
next week sounds great.
Yeah, I'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye.